I'm in the Machine House in Rossett in North Wales, and I'm with Patrick Gatenby, the owner of the restaurant, and we're going to taste 4 Italian wines and try and find something a little bit quirky for their wine list. So what's the ethos of the Machine House?
Machine House is all about fresh, local and seasonal produce. We've got strong connections with Anglesey, particularly around shellfish and fish generally, but we've also got a strong meat offer here. We're still relatively new here. I'd like to think we're building a great reputation. Certainly the feedback we're getting is very good. Our menus are changing regularly. We constantly looking for new suppliers. It's as much local produce as we can source. We're always looking for new ideas. We've got a very innovative chef, and what we're trying to do is to marry up the wine list with the food, which is always a constant challenge when it changes all the time. As far as our wine's concerned, I guess what we've tried to do with the wine list is make it very accessible. So it's there's quite a lot of New World on there, but there's also a nice variety of Old World. And we've got a couple of nice Italians on there, but there's always I could always do with one more.
So the first wine we're going to taste is a Nero d'Avola from Sicily. It's from Donna Fugata, which is a really kind of dynamic producer in Western Sicily. They make fresh, fruity wine, so we'll see what you think.
Sounds good. Thanks, Paul.
Okay, so it's a lovely sort of cherry colour, nice and clean, fruity, a little bit herbaceous.
Yep.
A little bit spicy, peppery on the finish.
Yeah, I'm getting that.
Nero d'Avola is a grape with sort of sweet tannin, plum, sometimes some spice. And I think this is a really good example of the grape. Okay, so next up we've got a Malvasia Nera, which is from Salento, in the southern heel part of Italy. It's fairly tannic, but again, lots of sort of cherry fruit. It's sort of, nice, refreshing acidity. And again, I think this is something that would complement your dishes, your meat dishes very well. So this is slightly darker in colour. Again, it's still largely, red fruit driven. It will take a little bit longer to fully open up.
Yeah.
It's slightly fuller. Malvasia, particularly the black version, you don't really see that often, especially in the UK. So I think it would be something quite quirky for your list. Again, lots of fruit, quite expressive.
Yeah, it's coming through.
Yeah, I mean, it's slightly drier on the finish than the Nero d'Avola, but it's still got that slightly sweet, lingering finish. I think this is a really good wine. It's still a typical southern Italian wine. I think high acidity, rich cherry fruit, and a little bit of a spicy kick at the end. Okay, so this is a Negro Amaro from Puglia, from the province of Salento. Again, it's the heel of Italy. Negro Amaro means black bitter. So it's a peculiar little variety. It's 2010, so a little bit of age to it. But I think it's, again, something that will go really well with your meat and steak dishes. Okay, so this is again slightly more acidic. You can probably tell why it's called what it's called.
Yeah.
But it's the same sort of cherry flavoured acidity, bit herbaceous.
So where would that sit on the wine list, Paul?
Well, I think it's it's a fairly light-bodied wine, but it's 13.5%. So I suppose it's not necessarily, a lunchtime wine.
Right.
You'll be asleep in your soup maybe.
13%.
13.5. Yeah. But it's not as full and rich as perhaps some of the other wines we've tasted so far.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, finally, this is an Aglianico del Vulture. It's from Basilicata, the centre of the south of Italy, really. It's the land where my grandfather was born. They only really make red wine from this one variety, Aglianico. It tends to grow in volcanic soils. There's an extinct volcano there, Monte Vulture. And they tend to be quite mature. They tend to be quite full-bodied wines. They're wines that are capable of aging for quite a long time. 10 years after the vintage, you could easily come back to this and find a really fresh, vibrant wine. So, let's see what you think. It's far more complex than the other wines we've tasted. This is actually organically produced, so there's a much bigger emphasis on projecting the terroir of the vineyards. You can really smell the effort that's gone into this wine.
Oh, straight away. You're obviously very excited about this wine, Paul. What's the story?
Well, this is actually produced by one of my friends, Giuseppe Mastrodomenico. I think historically the family sold the grapes to some of the bigger wine producers in the area. And not long ago they decided, hang on a minute, we've got some really good grapes here. Let's make a really good wine ourselves. Right. And this is the 2007, and it's still drinking really, really well. So out of all the Fort wines, which do you think would sit best on your list?
I think my favourite, they were all good, I have to say. I think my favourite, and I think the one that will sit well on the list, is the Malvasia Nera. I think that'll go very well with game. I think it'll go great with steak. And I think it's also the sort of wine that would go well on its own. So I think there might be a second and a third bottle there for people.